Oh, come on. Oh, somebody got greedy. Somebody got very greedy. Dude, I'm actually hacking. I'm actually just hacking. Yep. Kraken unleashed and a blind shot for the win. That did just happen. And I want to show you what happened before that and kind of the decision making that goes into a game like this. Of course, the game wasn't too close by the end. We had a pretty clear advantage with all of our remaining ships having pretty much full HP, so there wasn't really much for that DD to do. But I do think there were some really interesting parts of this game that involve some really good decision making that you could maybe learn from in a ranked match. So that's probably the biggest thing here, is that there's submarines in ranked, and playing around them is a lot about camping the back of the map. That is essentially your best way to play a battleship, is to play at the back of the map. And the ship I have is no coincidence, I guess I'll say. The Warspite, I think, has the best anti-submarine warfare in the game as far as tier 6 battleships go. And I think as far as effectiveness, battleship anti-submarine warfare is pretty much the best there is. Destroyers have to get right on top of a submarine to drop their anti-submarine warfare, which of course is pretty much impossible when, a DD that's rushing into the enemy side of the map, he's going to die instantly. Whereas a battleship, you can kind of sit at the back and drop these airstrikes of depth charges and do a lot of damage to these submarines. So a lot of countering a submarine I have found to be playing near your own sub, playing near DDs, anything that can spot a submarine, and making sure you're going to be in range to drop that airstrike on them. As a weird mechanic, your anti-submarine warfare actually reaches farther than what it says it does. The 10 kilometers, at least for Warspite, is the maximum that you can at least put your reticle and then click and the airstrike goes through. But the airstrike is rather tall, and it stretches quite a ways away from you, and we'll have an example of that later on. But just know that you can have maybe 11 kilometers of range, and you should really be trying to make use of this as much as possible. It's going to make the lives of your DDs a lot better, because destroyers that get spotted by submarines tend to die very, very quickly. The other thing you should know is you want to save your damage control for the exact moment that the torpedoes are going to hit. If you have a longer duration damage control, like in American Battleship, maybe hit it as soon as you spot the torpedoes and where they're going. That will reduce the amount of time that they have locked onto you. Maybe you can dodge, and even if they do hit, they're not going to be doing citadel damage. Of course, citadel damage is one of the worst parts of playing a battleship, because you can only heal 10% of it. So taking that extra citadel damage from a submarine feels a little unfair, but it is something you can mitigate with that damage control. But of course, you're also using that damage control on fires, broken guns, and a lot of other smaller things. And honestly, there's a lot of pressure on damage control. So I find the best way is to just snipe from the back. Unfortunately, that is the way you're going to be playing a battleship against these subs, at least for the time being. Hopefully Wargaming makes some big changes to the class to make things more fun and interesting for everybody involved. I think subs themselves are pretty boring to play. Seems like a pretty binary situation where either you're going to kill whoever you're targeting and there's really not much they can do, or you're going to die and there's really not much you can do. That appears to be the situation. But at this point, we've only had, 2 salvos in the air, and it's 5 minutes into the game, 6 minutes into the game. Yeah, we haven't really done much yet. So that comes down to my positioning, and I'm always trying to set up a crossfire with my friendly battleships. Always. And ranked, it's really, really important to do that. It's a little bit difficult on this map since it's so open on the side that I've gone to, but it is doable, and that's why I've been kind of playing where I'm at. I'm trying to get these cross shots in on this Grafspee. He is the most important target to take down, at least the one that we normally can spot. As you could see, we were getting some hits on that submarine as we finally end up killing that Grafspee. He went broadside a couple too many times to us. And there you go, 4 hits on the submarine, and that should be some pretty good damage. And for the most part, he was actually outside of that 10-kilometer window. I'm just trying to stay within that range. And of course, with our main guns, we're always going to try and shoot DDs because that's just how you win games in ranked. As a battleship player, you want to take damage without dying for your team and deal damage to the enemy destroyers. That's where I'm just trying to play near enough that I can impact the fight, right? Our Farragut, sorry. Fletcher's tier 9. Farragut has very low health at this point, so I'm trying to help this engagement as much as possible. He's getting kind of bullied out by this submarine and this DD because he's getting outspotted, and then he's just losing a lot of HP. So it's a little unfortunate in that sense. And then our cruiser gets absolutely nuked here. So even though for us, at least as far as the HP is concerned, we could lose quite a few ships here and a lot of map control. And of course, with Epicenter, the points tick up very, very, very quickly, especially that middle cap. So we really need to maintain at least some presence in there. Here you can see the destroyer's way of dealing with a submarine. It's so silly. He's risking his life and his hit points just to get over top of our sub. And it seems like he might be successful here at this point, but you can see how risky that is for a DD and how it's probably not the most fun way to play, because you know as a DD player, everybody's going to be mad at you when you don't go after the submarine. But going after a submarine as a DD is almost a death sentence most of the time until very late game. And it's kind of this weird dynamic where there's a lot of responsibility on destroyers to spot and deal with capture zones already, and the subs are just going to make their life even worse. I really don't like the way Wargaming is adding subs to the game at all. It seems like a really, really just horrible way to make the game slower and worse for everyone playing. But there we go. We clicked on the ocean and we killed the enemy sub somehow. Oh, man. I just don't think it's that fun to have a game mode where a lot of the ships are trying to remain unspotted most of the time. I'm playing this ship to shoot my guns at other ships, right? And it seems like we're straying farther and farther away from that as we move along in this game's development. That Le Glaciaire did a great job of baiting my shot. I'm not sure if it was to dodge torpedoes or if he was watching my guns, but whatever it was, a really well done job to bait me into thinking he was going to turn broadside and then turn in. It was really good to dodge my shells, and then he gets the DD kill for it as well, which is really well done. However, he's in a pretty rough spot now, being forced to turn broadside, and we get the perfect shot. Warspite, beautiful dispersion, and we get 5 overpens. And in a cruel twist of fate, his very first HE salvo lights us on fire. So you know RNG was having a good time in the background of this match. But regardless, eventually we'll hopefully be able to do some damage to this guy. He does have paper-thin armor. As we all know, the lower-tier French cruisers basically have no armor, and that's why you overpen them. Even with destroyer guns, oftentimes overpen them. The odd part, to me at least, is that with that paper armor, he gets 2 bounces the next salvo. So, yeah, we're getting a little unlucky against this guy, but it's okay. We have a huge, huge health advantage. All we need to do is stall and not throw our ship away, wait for our battleships that have pretty much full health to come join us in the fight, and we'll push into the middle, and it'll all be okay. 2 kills at this point. That did give us our extra consumable from Cunningham. Since Warspite is a premium, I am pulling him from my Conqueror, but we don't really make use of the Witherer thing on Warspite since we use AP most of the time. 3rd kill there, we finally get the Citadel when he's on low HP, and at this point, we've pretty much got things under control. I'm thinking that, at least. We'll wait on, bide our time, and hope that our battleships don't just push into the DD and die all at once. The Bayern actually is on very low HP, so it's possible we can kill him here. And this is one of the main reasons I love Warspite at tier 6. The guns do so much damage to enemy battleships. They overmatch, and they have really, really good dispersion. I think, as far as your options for a battleship, Warspite and Fuso are really the best two for ranked. If you're wondering what I'm doing here, and there's no submarine around, I am sending out these planes to see if the DD left his AA on. They can't actually spot enemy ships, but they will show anti-aircraft firing. So in a weird way, you can kind of send them out to scout areas of the map. Of course, most destroyer players should be smart enough to turn their AA off by now, but that's a really interesting way to maybe get some information out of these airstrikes that you maybe wouldn't have normally. It works a lot better against cruisers and battleships since they don't tend to constantly turn their AA off and on again. They don't really think about that, but every once in a while you get a destroyer like that as well. Now I need to mention how to dodge torpedoes, because I'm the first one in. It's likely he's going to torp me. So I'm guessing he's in the south and that he torped this line that I'm about to turn into here. That's a pretty standard thing for a destroyer to wait just until you're going to round the corner as far as the gray line is concerned, and then send their torps. So we turn into that, but don't see anything. And so that gets me a little bit suspicious that he might be on my right, and so we turn into that. It's all about predicting where you think the enemy DD is going to be. And there he is. The next thing you should think about is that when a DD starts firing at you randomly, when they don't have to, it means they're probably trying to bait you into turning to get all your guns off against them, and that's going to turn you into their torpedo salvo. That's usually the case. Of course, this T-61 might have been shooting to reset me on the cap, but I wasn't really close to finishing the cap, so I was assuming it was a torpedo threat. So I instantly turned back in directly towards him, and sure enough, he was greedy to gray line both of those. And now we've come to the moment we saw at the beginning. And this comes down to getting into the enemy player's head. What's he gonna do? He was last seen turning south. Well, he's also probably gonna try and stall out the points on the cap since he's at 700 points. So he's not gonna leave that outer ring. So how far do we think a T-61 can get in the horizontal distance as far away from me as he can possibly be? That is what I'm thinking. I'm lining up the horizontal on the minimap. In the vertical, I'm putting it right at the edge of the cap. And that's where I'm going to shoot. This is a complete guess. I am, in fact, not hacking, despite the sensational title. This is just a guess and, well, an intelligent guess, I would say. I know that he can't get too far away from where he was last spotted, and we know that he wants to stay in the cap. We get the middle cap, and of course, you know the rest. We got that kill for our Kraken Unleashed, and we finished the game off like that. Pretty insane, and something that I talk about a little bit more in detail in my aiming video, which I'm sure most of you have watched since that's what really blew my channel up. But it doesn't hurt to take the shot. You can always reload in 30 seconds or so. So that game resulted in only 86k damage, but a Kraken, Confederate, high caliber, and a lot of fun. I gotta say, that was a pretty good one for me. It started off my night of playing the game really, really, really well. We ended up top on our score by quite a bit, and like I said, this game wasn't really that close of one. I can't really call it a hard carry or a solo carry type of job, but we did do most of the heavy lifting for our team, and we actually didn't get shot at all that much, which was pretty cool. So I really do enjoy the Warspite at tier 6. It really does suffer when you fight against the tier 8s and tier 7s, but at its tier, this ship is amazing. This is my Conqueror commander. Keep that in mind. So that is why we have things like the gun feeder. Really, you're not going to use that all that often on a Warspite since your HE is not that massively improved British HE that we all know. Grease the gears, super important on actually both ships. The other one that is 2 points that I really like is Vigilance. And since there are submarines, you could take this anti-submarine warfare expert and buff that even farther. Again, Adrenaline Rush, and then your normal tier 4 points. Pretty standard stuff, I gotta say. Nothing too fancy there. I'm just trying to have a normal build in this kind of scenario since we don't really know how to play against subs at this point since they're so new yet. I am running the anti-submarine aircraft mod, so they hit a little bit harder and reload a little bit faster. That's the primary motivation behind that. And of course, the standard upgrades. This is a lot of damage, actually. This is, I think, the highest at the tier. You get 3,450 with this build. And you can buff that even further if you take these extra ones. Another 10% right there as far as damage. And then this one is just reload time. But if you want to get all the damage you can get, it's pretty good. And of course, one of the best parts about the Warspite one is that you actually get 2 charges of it. It reloads the first one, and then it starts the reloading of the second one. It's very rare that you're just going to be using it all the time, at least as far as I've found. So having 2 charges that you can drop, I think it's 3 or 4 seconds apart from each other, is really powerful. And ships like the Americans, the Arizona is an example of a ship I've been playing a little bit, it only gets 1 flight available. It does, I believe, drop a few more bombs, gives you a even farther reach outside of your range. It's a really long, narrow, tall reticle, but you only get 1. You can't save up 2, actually. And that's one of the reasons that I've been kind of leaning towards the Fuso and the Warspite, since the Fuso also gets 2 flights available, which is really, really nice to have. And honestly, I don't think you should be really playing ships like the Bayern or anything without anti-submarine warfare. If there's subs in the game, you probably shouldn't be playing it, because you need to at least have something to damage the submarines with. Which is why I think Wargaming should give everything at least something to deal damage to the subs with, but I don't know. They're kind of all over the place in terms of balance, and I have very little faith that subs will ever be a good addition to the game as far as a PvP scenario is concerned. If they'd bring back operations and scenarios and do cool things with them and add subs to that, I think that would be a great use of submarines, but that's unlikely to happen since that's a good idea and a good decision. So thank you for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time. The ZF6, and this of course was one of the previous dockyard ships, and I really like this ship, but I did run it as a torpedo boat, and well, that build did work and it's not too bad to do. I do think I was wrong in using that build. I think the obvious strength of this ship is the guns, and I should have played that gun build. So here we are after finding the commander rework or free commander respecs this patch, and pretty much getting through most of the battleships I wanted to play secondaries. I figured we'd take a look at some of the other ships in the game that I wanted to test different builds for, and obviously gun build ZF6 is definitely one of them, because this ship with the reload booster and a full gun build is pretty nasty in the amount of damage it can output. Our reload here with the reload booster, like 1.5 seconds, and while I do a pretty poor job of using the armor piercing against this, well, basically a Friesland, it does do pretty good damage when you get those full pens. Unfortunately, he was flat broadside, and our AP, I believe, does not have short fuses, so we overpen a ton when he's broadside. So we'll note that down for future future engagements with DDs and use some HE when they're flat broadside instead. Of course, the HE doesn't have the crazy high alpha that the AP does, and that's standard for most German ships, let's be honest. But you do get base 32mm pen on this HE, so where ships like maybe Fletcher or, well, Friesland would be shattering on the hull of this Alsace, I am not. We are getting full pens, and we don't even need to take IFHE to get that. We just have it, and that means we don't sacrifice our fire chance either. So a pretty decent start so far. A DD killed, and, well, we're going to get the A-cap as well. Another really nice thing about this build is you get some really good concealment. I believe it's 5.9 kilometers, which is not the best at the tier. Obviously, there's some Japanese torpedo boats that can get even better concealment, but 5.9 is pretty much good enough to compete with most ships in a spotting fight. You don't get the hydro, but honestly, most of the time you shouldn't be playing your ship in such a way where you're relying on hydro to spot torpedoes, that kind of thing. It is nice to have, but when you don't have it, it's not the end of the world, I don't think. And you'll notice here, I'm spending some time not shooting. I decided this match to play it more as a hit and run style of ship, or an opportunity seeker, not just an all-out shoot the entire time. So we're spotting for our Kitakaze and a couple of our other ships in the back lines a little bit, and that means that these two battleships are likely to go down, and as an added bonus, we're getting into closer range and potentially have a little opportunity to use the torpedoes. It is a 90-second cooldown on the torps now instead of around a 75-second, I think, is what you could get it down to. Maybe a little less than that with the full torp build, but still, 90 seconds is pretty quick. And with 8-kilometer torpedoes, it's unlikely you're going to be using them on cooldown if you have a 70-ish second reload, right? You can wait till 90 seconds. And with that, you get this amazing gun power. So I've pushed up to this island to limit the number of people who can shoot at me. We know the other two destroyers are on the other side of the map, so we have nothing to worry about of somebody rushing us in the middle. And I'm just waiting for this Iowa to shoot, and then I'm going to unload with AP. And the AP really, really tears people up. I believe it has some improved pen angles as well. So even if these people try to angle to me a little bit, battleships, cruisers, they'll get torn up by this armor piercing. In this game, I was actually hoping to run into the Schultz because, well, we all know how gigantic those German DDs are and how fun it would be to use a reload booster AP on them. But the damage we get out of this is pretty solid, honestly. 2,000, 3,000 damage per salvo, and that adds up quick, especially when you have around a 1.5 second reload with this reload booster. I'm running Superintendent, of course, because you just have so many consumables, and that is a really, really nice thing to have. It's a bit of a gimmick ship, and the more gimmicks you can have, the better. At least that's the thought process behind running Superintendent. Smokes are not as good as the competition, like Fletcher, that kind of thing. Even the Chungmu with its Pan-Asian smokes, where they don't last as long, but they have an insanely fast cooldown, so you can almost always have a smoke screen up, or even the British DDs with their smokes. German smokes definitely are not the best in the game, but they do work, and with that we do actually pop our Luchin's buff. So running Luchin's on this ship is pretty easy. You don't even have to sacrifice running him on a secondary battleship, or maybe on some of your cruisers, because this is a premium, and with the way they changed the commander skills in 10.0, you have all of those different trees for every single commander. So all your premiums, you can use whatever commander you want, and I think that's a really, really cool thing. Even though I think the trend of this game is going towards a less player-friendly, more pay-to-win style, that is admittedly a very good change, and I think that is a very player-focused change. So very cool. We do have to call them out for their good things that they do, if we want to call them out on the bad things as well. Anyways, we've cleaned up to this flank, and now it's time to move on to the B cap. And you notice we're kind of staying even with the enemy team, but it's going to turn out not so great here towards the end of the game. I'll be honest, when I was playing this game, I did not actually think we were going to win after a certain point here when we start to lose a couple of our ships. Just because the enemy team has the stronger side of the map. And what do I mean by that? Well, just look at how strong the two islands are around the B cap to hold it from people pushing from A. We have to push through this massive open water gap, and the enemy team has all this island cover. And they still have 2 DDs left, so it's not like they're going to be lacking on spotting. So we're in a pretty rough situation, but we do know that their 2 DDs are pretty far away at this point, so I might be able to sneak a cap here if we can get this Brindisi killed. And that would be good. It would force them out of those islands, because
That's what we need to have happen right now. We can't push into B as a team if the enemy team has control of the cap and is able to stay behind all these islands. So that is our win condition, is to hopefully get this cap and get this Brindisi killed. And this ship can do that pretty well. Given the good concealment, you are able to contest caps, contest areas of the map. You're able to take fights with destroyers with your reload booster and your smoke screen. We'll see later on a good combination of that, but I'm really not looking to take fights with DDs unless I have both my reload booster and my smoke screen available. Speed boost, of course, is also a nice to have, but it's really those two primary things. And with a ship with this good concealment and not the best speed, but reasonable speed and maneuverability, you can decide when to take those fights a lot of the time. So we're going to smoke up and we're going to try and kill this Brindisi and Azumo. Unfortunately, the Brindisi angles right away, but the Azumo's running right into our torpedoes, and boy do they hurt. They are not German torpedoes, I believe they're French torpedoes, so we get, what, 25,000 damage from 2 torps? And that actually flooded him, so I think he actually must have damage gone to fire or something else. So he's on a double flood and a fire at this point, so pretty rough for him, and that is something you do have to watch out for in a battleship. If you decide to push, make sure your damage con's available. Otherwise, stuff like this happens all the time. And I'm not trying to be too hard on that guy. I'm just speaking from experience of myself dying like that over and over and over again. You'll notice the enemy team is doing a pretty solid job blind firing me. I really hadn't lost all that much HP up to this point, and they've got me down to 11,000 HP. There's going to be even more blind firing coming in. So really impressive from them, and something you will have to watch out for as a destroyer who's shooting from their smoke screen. You do want to be moving around and not presenting as easy stationary target to hit. There is an element of luck to it, especially when there's a Lepanto. We all know how poor that accuracy is at longer ranges, especially when you're not locked on. And he actually gets, I believe, 3 hits into us there. Pretty insane, so nearly 4,000 damage extra. So we are looking a little bit low, and we don't know for sure what that Chungmu's HP is at, but it's looking pretty high compared to us. And this is where having a reload boost and a smoke screen is going to come into play. At this point, we have dealt with the threats in the B cap, forced the Brindisi off, and killed the Azumo, so I can get into the cap now. Our Drake is overcommitted, and our Oster has died to the Chungmu. We know the Chungmu's in the north, so that's where I'm heading. I'm hoping that it's going to take a little bit for that Chungmu to come down here so that I can get my smoke screen back up and we actually see him in smoke. It's important because the Chungmu can mount a radar. So I wouldn't ever want to use a smoke up engagement against a radar Chungmu. That would be really bad. The strategy that I would go for if he has smoke like he does, and we'll see in a little bit, is you spot each other, you take the engagement, you start shooting, and then you smoke up, and hopefully you have teammates around you to keep him spotted, and you'll get covered by your smoke screen, and then hopefully you'll win that fight that way by him not being able to see you, even though they can blind fire you. And even though the Chungmu does have a pretty short cooldown on his smokes, it's not instantaneous. So now that we have the cap, I do want to go fight him because we know his smoke is going to go down soon, and we want to catch him out when he doesn't have his smoke screen. That's a huge advantage for us. Azuma dev strikes the Riga, which is a huge bonus. I believe he used his radar earlier on our Oster, and that's why he didn't radar me in the cap. That's the only explanation I can think of. And we get really lucky there with that Azuma, and the Lepanto trades him out. And here we go. Chungmu spots us, we spot him. He starts shooting right away because we're low health, and obviously he should take that fight. But we have a smoke screen and teammates that can spot him for us. So we pop our reload booster, and just look at how this turns the table on this guy. And just like that, the Chungmu is going to be taken out. And with HE no less. It doesn't do as much damage as the AP with full pens would, but I believe getting full pens with HE is better than overpens with AP. So we've taken him out. We've done 164,000 damage at this point. Really an awesome result for a DD at tier 9 especially. and one that's not really focused on damage farming. I would say this ship is more of a hit and run type of ship where you take map control and you take engagements that are favorable to you, not really a sustained damage dealer, but you could obviously play it that way. And I really did enjoy playing this ship, honestly, and the gun build does feel more comfortable than the torpedo build for sure. That's probably what I would recommend most people play. If you're wondering why I torpedoed there, there's no more team damage, so there's no longer any need to worry about the Kitakaze eating my torpedoes, and we can just torp at the Lepanto for free here. I think end up hitting the Kitakaze, but not a huge deal as he goes down with the Lepanto. And there we go, 167k, Confederate, and a pretty insane carry job. We did have some pretty solid teammates with us on our flank, so it was not a solo carry, but definitely a group effort. But that is the ZF6, and its gun build is really, really solid. So if you did end up getting this ship from the dockyard, it's a really good one. Maybe try that gunboat build. And if you've got Lucians, put them on there as well. It's a pretty good time. And I felt like I always had an option to do something. That's the really nice part. And that's one of those things I really enjoy about a ship in this game, is always feeling like I can do something. The feeling of helplessness or relying on RNG gets old after a while, and always having a strategic option to play is really nice to have. And this ship definitely has that with all of its consumables and just generally good base stats. So full gun build, as I said, we're running reload, concealment to, take those closer range engagements, and I am running prop mod. I think that's just better to help you dodge torpedoes when you're in smoke, get accelerating a little bit sooner. Aiming systems mod, you could see the dispersion was kind of mediocre sometimes against those DDs, so I think running aiming system just guarantees more hits on target. And as far as the other skills go, maybe torpedo tubes, but honestly your torps are already pretty quick, so I don't really think that's necessary with the gun build. And that is it for the upgrades. Now for the commander, I do think just the standard DD build commander at 10 points is what you want to go with first. You go concealment and then survivability expert and last stand, and then I take preventive maintenance. It's recommending consumable specialist, but a little bit of reload here and there isn't going to help you that much, I don't think. Not as much as keeping your turrets and torpedoes and engine alive. And now for the other skills, Superintendent to get more gimmicks. Adrenaline Rush is just great. As you lose HP, you gain reload back. I'm taking main battery and AA specialist because I am playing it more as a hit and run type DD. I'm shooting from behind cover, I'm shooting from in my smokes, and because of that, Fearless Brawler just doesn't help you. When you're not detected, Fearless Brawler isn't giving you any buffs, so that's where this one I think is a little better for the playstyle I chose. But if you're playing that open water gunboater, Fearless Brawler is just better. You could take range if you wanted to, but I found that having that short range makes you play a little bit more tactically and helps you to maybe not just gunboat the entire time. And it might be a little more useful to your team that way. Extra heavy ammunition, again, buffing that AP. That's how we get those chunky salvos. There are other skills you could definitely take. Maybe something like priority target would allow you to make a more informed decision as you are moving around the map, and when you get spotted, whether you should smoke up or whether you can take some fights with people. But the ZF6 is a very, very nice DD. I really enjoyed playing it, and I think I'm going to run a gun build on it because it turned out so well. And it's not like the torpedoes are bad anyway. So thank you very much for watching, and I hope you guys have a great look at what quite possibly could be one of my best Montana games ever.
I've had this ship a long time, so that's saying something. And honestly, part of that does come down to this commander rework and how things have changed for the Montana. Before 10.0, Montana only could get, I say only, it was still an okay range, but the secondaries would only get out to around 9.1 kilometers range, which wasn't bad, but it wasn't all that useful, especially at tier 10. Now though, with the commander rework, we got the buffed range on all battleships for their secondaries, so we now have an 11 kilometer secondary range. And pair that with the recent buff of manual secondaries, giving you close to old dispersion back at the end of a 45-second window, you can do some pretty cool things, even with Montana secondaries. So you're essentially just lacking the accuracy that Ohio gets with its secondaries. That's it. These secondaries have the same reload, they have the same fire chance, and they nearly have the same range now. Of course, Ohio gets 11.3 kilometers. So I'm not saying Montana is going to be replacing Ohio as your secondary boat of choice, right? But it's an interesting build, especially considering the 7 points that it takes to actually get your secondaries to a decent range. And as an added bonus, these American battleships, they can freely take the secondary range upgrade module just because they don't take accuracy in that slot. So a pretty easy to run build on the Montana, and I think it makes the Montana just a little bit more fun. Of course, Montana's bread and butter has always been the kind of heaviest broadside in the game, which it no longer holds due to Vermont and things like Colombo coming into the game as well. But I gotta say, for my money, Montana broadsides are still really, really heavy, and they hit people really, really hard. You're lacking, of course, in overmatch, but there's plenty of opportunities in the majority of games to get that broadside hit on someone. And Montana accuracy paired with these reasonably good rounds, you know, they don't have the highest pen, but they have decent pen. You're going to do a ton of damage with these shells, and that has not been the issue with the Montana at all. It's kind of the jack of all trades, I would say. Of course, AA is something that the American battleships used to be really, really good at. Now we know that AA doesn't really do much on any ship, so that's not really a strength of the Montana anymore. I remember playing the Montana before the CV rework, and you'd get a full full AA Montana, and you would just swat planes out of the sky. Even a good tier 10 aircraft carrier player would have a tough time coming after you. It was kind of ridiculous with manual AA and all that stuff, if you guys remember that. But that's not the build anymore, as are full pens on DDs. Imagine that before the change. DD might have died right there. That would have been crazy. But that was probably a good change, quality of life for people. Although I would like to see some changes to DD damage, but I don't really want to go on about that in this video. I want to tell you about the Montana. I really like the Montana. Of course, you probably know that this is a ship that I played a lot in Kings of the Sea when I was doing that. And with good reason. These shells hit really hard across the entire map. You get tons of range, and they're really, really easy guns to use, I think. You're not really worried about where you should hit on people, where you're going to overpen, where you're going to deal the most damage, because these shells aren't particularly fast. So I find that a lot of the time, assuming you lead properly, you're actually not going to get the frustrating overpen only salvos like you might out of something like a Republic in front of us, or things like Slava or Yamato or Shikishima with their giant shells. It just seems like these shells like to punch in and dev strike things that are broadside. That Johan he tried his luck a couple too many times there, so we got some nice salvos in, but Montana has the incredible strength of staying power. This ship just refuses to die, and I think that is one of the primary benefits of bringing a Montana into random battles. Is it's a really hard ship to take down. The build I'm running doesn't involve the 5th tier upgrade of getting you more healing. I know I was running that in some previous videos, but we're running a more sensible-ish build, running at least one of the concealment slots on the Montana, since we do want to be in at least somewhat close range without being permanently spotted. But look at this heal. Even without that extra 10%, we already are getting
around 23,500 HP back, and we have 5 of those heals. Montana does not get that super fast cooldown on the heal like the Ohio does, but you get an improved heal for how much it's going to heal you back. So you'll see that just over the course of the next few minutes here, where we end up using, I think, 2 heals. We go down to 3 heals left, and we're basically on full HP still by the end of that. These heals are really, really good. So if you're good at managing engagements where you can disengage and re-engage as you please, where you can tank a little bit and then come back and heal, you know, get to the back of the map and that kind of thing. If you're good at knowing when to do that, Montana's going to be a great ship for you. And even though it doesn't have overmatch, you can just aim for superstructures a lot of the time on battleships. We get around 10,000 damage into that Republic there. So yeah, Yamato would have overmatched into everywhere, but it's one of those things where I think overmatch is a little bit overstated against battleships. I think Yamato is slowly losing that niche because just how much damage you're getting out of superstructures these days. Of course, against cruisers is where overmatch really matters. So Montana not having those, 430 millimeter and up guns does hurt it a little bit against cruisers, but again, you can just take your time and wait them out. That is the nice thing. Now, another nice thing about the Montana is the slow shells allow you to arc over some islands that you probably wouldn't think you can. I wasn't sure about I would hit that Republic or not. I'd hit the island because we all know the island hit indicator is a little bit bugged this patch. Add that to the list of things that aren't going to get fixed in a really long time, but yeah, it's nice to have these shells that can lob over things. Like a Des Moines, it's really handy at closer ranges to be able to lob over things like that. But back to the staying power of the Montana. That was one of the biggest reasons it was brought into Kings of the Sea. The hitting power of the guns is nice as well. The consistency of 12 guns instead of 9 or even 8 guns at tier 10. It's really nice, but it's this staying power. Being able to play in the game throughout the entire thing and never worry about not having enough healing or not being tanky enough to at least impact the game all the way throughout. Assuming you don't YOLO in and die before you can make use of all of this amazing healing that your ship has. So that is a massive benefit for the Montana. And because the meta is so passive these days, having a ship that is just going to stick around until late game can get you into some scenarios where you're left to carry the game out. You're the one that is one of the last ships alive, and it's up to you to win or lose the game. And for me personally, those are some of the most enjoyable games that I can possibly play. This Gascon gives us a little bit too much angle. I wasn't even expecting this. Look at this, 30 degrees when we hit, and bam, 30k. I'm pretty sure we hit that tiny little corner cheek that the French battleships have, and that's when they're most vulnerable to citadels. It's much, much smaller a cheek than Yamato. Don't even think it's like a Yamato cheek, but it's a small little corner in the turtleback that doesn't actually protect the citadel, and if you're lucky, you can hit that. At closer ranges, you can guarantee hits there a little bit more. But look at these secondaries go. This is something that we did not have last patch, and while he's in range, the Gascon, for old Montana secondaries, I don't think many people built for them, simply because of the lack of range. I think 9.1 just wasn't enough to warrant a full build, and keep in mind, back in the day, the build was way more expensive. Manual secondaries and AFT were both 5 points worth of skills, back when the skill points went up to 5 points. So the cost of a secondary build has significantly decreased. And there we go, we got our close quarters expert. Those secondaries didn't do a ton of damage there. I'll spoil that for you for the end screen, but they are really handy to have. It allowed us to turn our guns towards maybe a more pressing target in the Georgia, trying to help our team finish him off. Our Neptune is, of course, in a very vulnerable spot for that Georgia, considering the power of those guns, so we wanted to help him out. And this Gascon really wasn't threatening us all that much, right? So leaving our secondaries on him was just fine there. And they ended up killing him, which was really nice. The main strength of Montana, and by extension Ohio secondaries, is the fire chance. You're not penning any hull armor at all. You're just going for superstructure pens, but primarily you're going for fires. You get a 9% fire chance, which is quite a lot. A lot of destroyers don't even get that kind of fire chance. So if somebody's stuck for an extended period of time within your range of your secondaries, they're probably going to be lit on fire a whole bunch. And unlike ships like the Colombo and their secondaries, you at least do pen superstructures, which is really, really nice. Now, we're in one of those situations. It is a 3-on-3, and the points are pretty close. The enemy team, of course, is up on points, and they have better map position, and they have more caps than us. So, with all my health left, it's time to push in. And like I mentioned earlier, we've used 2 big giant heals already, and we're still in the green as it's shown on the health bar. But that just means we're above 75% HP, which is pretty good, considering we've had around 1 million potential damage and some pretty close range fights with some battleships. The one thing that we haven't had to deal with at this point is the carrier. The carrier's been going after someone else, and just because I said Montana AA doesn't really do much these days, it doesn't mean you're priority target number 1 for most carriers. The AA is good enough that you're probably not going to be the primary focus of the enemy CV, which is a really, really nice benefit that the Montana gets. It's really, really special to not be in something like a Yamato, for example, where everybody knows you have the worst AA at tier 10, and you're basically a sitting duck if you're caught out alone. So having that on the Montana really does help out. But even this tier 8 CV is going to have no issues getting strikes off on us at all, especially if the Ibuki keeps hitting us with HE and knocking out our AA mounts permanently. So, along with the build that I'm running on this ship, I am running rudder shift mod. I think that is one of the most uncomfortable parts of the Montana. It has, I think, the longest rudder shift out of any battleship in the entire game. So it takes a long time to get this ship turning, and when you're coming up against torpedoes, well, we barely dodged that one, but most of the time those torpedo planes are going to have no issues getting a good strike in on you because it takes so long for your rudder to shift over to the other side. So running rudder mod is nice, and due to the extra healing you get with the Montana now, I think that can really help you deal with the fires. So running basics of survivability, or I guess it's damage control system that's in that 4th slot, would be something that I don't necessarily think I need on this ship anymore, given how much healing it gets. So we take out the Ibuki, and now it's a 2-on-3. Okay, we're getting there, and we're up to 4 kills now at this point. Of course, we're trying to turn so that the dive bombers kind of have to drop across our ship. That's generally the best way to go about it, so that they have the hardest time dropping and getting a good hit on you as possible, dodging the Ibuki torps. I was actually surprised in the moment that he got those torpedoes away. I didn't think he was quite broadside enough, but apparently he was. Khabarovsk at long range, of course, another ship that struggles with rudder shift, so if they don't really play with their speed, you can sometimes get some pretty good hits on them at longer ranges. Our Lexington unfortunately misses, and right here, I think you might have to go back and look at my aiming guide from all those months ago, almost a year ago now. Now, I've been making content, and my voiceover was not that good back then, but my aiming video still has some pretty good points about it, and one of them was predicting the enemy. This was later on in the video. Sometimes you can just take a blind shot and expect that the enemy's gonna do something that 9 times out of 10 they'll do. Like a Khabarovsk running behind an island when they're on low health. And you can get a blind shot for your Kraken Unleashed. And that was not something that was done based on cheats or mods at all. That was me predicting where that Kaba would go. And I was pretty happy about that shot. Of course, you don't expect those to land, but when they do, it is quite the feeling. You feel like you kind of own this game. It feels good. It feels really good. And taking that shot, there was no harm in doing that at that point, because, well, what am I going to shoot at anyway? This Graf Zeppelin's behind an island, and my guns aren't turned for him, so you may as well take some more blind shots. I often see people hold their shot too long in battleships. Like, for example, when somebody goes dark, and you're just about to get loaded, and their ship disappears off your screen, well, you were already aiming pretty much in the right spot. Why wouldn't you just take the shot anyway? And yeah, there are arguments to be made for not taking those shots and waiting for better opportunities, but sometimes you just take the shot and it works out.
And yeah, that Kaba one, I won't say that was completely skill. That has a lot of luck to do with it, but it was a pretty impressive shot. I'm not gonna lie, and I was pretty proud of that one. So with this Monty game, we get a Kraken Unleashed and actually 6 kills, Kraken Unleashed, and a whole slew of medals. Games like this don't happen very often, so I was pretty proud of myself after this one. So even the fireproof, we were still on tons of HP. We didn't quite get a Dreadnought though, which is interesting. Close quarters expert even, and high caliber and Confederate. No Halsey, so we didn't get that crazy reload buff. And there you go, a 3k base XP game in the Montana. This is still a really, really good battleship. I think it is lacking a little bit in certain areas, like Overmatch compared to some of its contemporaries, but it's still a really, really good ship. And our secondaries, they did okay. You know, around 19,000 damage, but they certainly helped us secure some kills and win us this game. Now on to the captain build. This is what I've been running. I've got essentially a secondary tank build-ish right now. I'm not completely sold on the secondary build that doesn't take a full concealment, but I don't think you can really skip out on the extra healing on the Montana or the fire prevention. So if you're going to take a secondary build, I think you do have to give up the commander, at least with concealment. I think the upgrade module with concealment is very, very good. And there on the right-hand side, I've got a mod there that also shows you the upgrades on my ship. Pretty standard upgrades, nothing too fancy there. I will say you could run the 3 million upgrade for secondaries if you really wanted to, but I just value my accuracy so much on battleships. I get very frustrated when my shells aren't connecting. And taking as much accuracy buffs as I possibly can on my ships is generally how I go about it. So that is what I would recommend. But maybe give your Montana a shot. It is still a really, really solid battleship and kind of the jack of all trades of the tier 10 battleships. I'm not sure if I would recommend grinding to it, considering there's some other battleships that are maybe a little easier, a little bit more forgiving with their overmatch or their shell velocity, that kind of thing, but it's definitely worth considering. So thank you very much for watching, guys, and I hope you have a great day. Alright, welcome to the aiming video. This is a large topic and there's a lot of complexity to how the aiming system works in this video, and hopefully I can explain it to you guys. There's gonna be a lot of different parts focusing on different things like blind firing, smoke firing, how to aim at ships at long range, how to predict people, what spots of ships to aim at. There's a lot to it, and I think I have some pretty good experience in this game. I have played this game since it essentially released. I've been a part of Supremacy League. I was a part of the last several Kings of the Sea tournaments, winning 4 of them with 07 as one of their main battleship players. I think I know what I'm doing sometimes, but yeah, I think that's why you should at least listen to what I have to say. I might not be completely accurate on everything, but I've got some decent experience, and that's kind of all going into this video. So I hope you guys enjoy, and thanks for watching. First, we're going to look at a clip from Citizen that really illustrates the biggest problem with aiming in this game. And that's that there's auto aim. There's not actually an accurate reticle that you can choose, dynamic or static, for the center of your screen.
it's not going to show you exactly where your shells are being aimed at or where the game engine thinks you're aiming. So here, this is a perfect example. Citizen here, he's aiming up at the rock, as you can see. And that's like 1 kilometer too high on this Republic. And yet, as we see, the shells hit him. He actually lands 4 out of the 6 shells that the Shikishima gets. And he's understandably frustrated because he aimed at the rock. He didn't aim at the Republic. So that's where auto aim comes into it. So we're going to look a little bit closer at this clip, explain it a little bit better, and look what we can change to make things a little bit easier to aim accurately.
Okay. Let's just yeet this into Africa, because every time I aim at where I should aim, it always falls low. So if I yeet that high, it'll hit him regardless.
Now this is a really frustrating mechanic, and it's really hard to know what's going on in this game when it doesn't really give you that much information. So we're going to take a closer look at what's going on here, and we're going to take a look exactly where he's aiming, right? He's right up against that island here. And when we take a look at the mini-map, the mini-map's really, really important in this. And we take a look, we see exactly where the mini-map circle thinks he's aiming, right? It's right about at the Republic, despite his central aiming system on his screen showing he's aiming at the island. So you can see where it would be a little confusing if you're aiming at that island, but the game puts your shells at the ship. The important thing to take away from this is the central aiming position on your screen is not accurate. All that matters is that tiny little dot on the minimap. So what's the solution then? Something sensible like turning off auto aim and making it slightly harder on myself according to Wargaming in settings? No, actually, that's not in settings to turn off the auto aim. So you know what we're gonna do instead? We're gonna crank our resolution scale up to 200% so we can actually see where that stupid dot is. Oh my goodness. So the first thing we need to take a look at when aiming is we need to look at what ships are capable of. So a ship like this Worcester, we need to keep in mind things like his speed, like what's his top speed, how fast he can brake or slow down, what his turning radius is, what the rudder shift is to get into that turning radius, depending on where he's at in that turn. And of course, we'll also look at reversing and their acceleration to stop and go forward and all that stuff. These are all things you just need to keep in mind when shooting at a ship. So we know this Worcester, he can't strafe, right? He can't go, well, up and down, right? That's not possible. But hypothetically, this Worcester's going full speed. How do we aim at him? Well, you can set it right straight along the line, like he's going to go full speed and not do anything. That's unlikely these days, quite honestly. But we can predict generally what he's going to do. It's important to keep in mind those earlier parameters. So if the ship decides to turn out at full speed, well, we need to know his rudder shift and what his turning circle is as well. Both of these things will tell us where to lead in front and above him. The other thing he could do is turn in. So then we also need to keep in mind both those, the turning radius and his rudder shift time, and aim below him, right? The other thing he could do is mess with his throttle. So then what happens if he just slows down? Okay, we need to aim somewhere else. Hypothetically, he's still going full speed. What if he slows down and turns out? A very common one. Then we need to know how fast the ship brakes and how fast the ship turns by the rudder shift and its turning radius. What if he slows down and turns in? Another common one. Generally more skilled players will do the slow down and turn in Less skilled players won't feel confident to turn towards the ships that are shooting at them. But it's still, possible. And the other thing we need to consider with ships that have a very fast acceleration, ships like Kleber, Marceau, Old Henry was a big one for this, is if you're sitting stationary like this, what happens if they start reversing or start going forward from a stationary position? Well, by the time your shells land, they could be 2 or 3 ship lengths somewhere else compared to where you aimed. Of course, if they're going backwards, how fast do they stop and then go forward again if they decide to do that? All these little things contribute to where you're gonna aim. And the important thing to remember is you're not gonna get it right every time. Aiming is honestly a guess at long ranges. But what you need to think about is all these factors, you need to know them for each ship. And then after shooting the same target multiple times, you start to get a feel for how that player plays and how that player likes to dodge. So after you shoot, do they react right away? Does it take them a few seconds to react? Do they seem to not care? If they react right away, what do? Are they going to do the slow down and turn out? Are they going to just slow down? Are they going to do the turn in? Or have they been going back and forth between turning out, turning in, these different things? And then you're guessing, you're trying to predict what they're doing. So you're not going to aim where the ship will be if they do nothing. You're going to aim where the ship will be after they take evasive action. So you're trying to predict their evasive action. And then at a certain point, they're starting to try and predict what you're going to predict that they'll do. And then it's just this interesting back and forth kind of thing. And then hopefully, if you guessed right, you're going to hit them. But in a battleship, we all know that's down to RNG, right? So while you're aiming at someone, and you're going to be shooting probably the same targets at least a couple times in these games, just because you're probably on a flank with, 3 or 4 other people, and the enemy team has 3 or 4 other people there. So you're probably shooting at the same ships multiple times. So what you want to be looking for is when the people react. So for example, in these clips, they're all the same rune, and we're looking to see if he reacts to when I shoot. And if he does react, when does he react? Does he react the instant I shoot? That might mean he has incoming fire alert on his captain. So then we'd have to take that into account. Here he doesn't react at all, so I know he probably doesn't have incoming fire alert, or he just didn't look at it that time. I am just a little bit high on that one. Although Rune and Hindenburg, you kind of get overpins a lot. So here again, we're testing, okay, if he didn't react to what I'm doing, then he'll probably just continue in a straight line. I saw him slightly turning in there. So I aimed a little bit like he would turn in, but he ended up turning out. He might be a little bit aware of us when we're shooting at him. The only time we would catch him off guard is when he's not looking at me. So stuff like that is good to know. All this predicting stuff does generally result in good hits. Like there, he didn't move at all. He just tanked the shot. And here, I'm thinking, well, he's shooting me, so he's probably going to react a little bit. So he's turning to try and angle his armor a little bit, and, well, we just get a lucky Citadel through his nose somehow, and Death Strike him. And that's not always going to happen, but predicting what someone does is crucial. So there, I predicted he wouldn't take drastic actions after I shot. I figured he'd probably try and tank it based on previous shots. Now this Iowa here, he goes dark, but we don't really get a good hit here. But we can assume that he probably dodged a little bit, or my aim was just off and we didn't know. But here's the real test, because he's going to stay spotted, and we're going to aim kind of for his Citadel, but a little bit high, thinking, oh, maybe he turns out. So if he turns out a little bit, we'll hit his Citadel and probably deal a huge hit. Now here we see the shells go slightly high, so we can gather from that he's probably not paying that much attention to me. So, well, here's a Yamato. I haven't shot at this guy yet, but at closer ranges you can kind of just shoot at weak points. We're going to get into weak spots in a little bit. Just know Yamato's quite weak when broadside. But But for now, we're talking a little bit about predicting what people are going to do. And this Iowa, well, he doesn't really care about being broadside to Montana at close range. And that's scary for him. But predicting your enemy is all about shooting them multiple times and seeing what they're doing and taking note. And then changing how you shoot at them. You know, you start to predict what they're going to do. Right? And Montana is just really nice for these things because it often dev strikes things. 12 guns is awesome. I think that it's really difficult to hit your shots first try, especially on good players. But over time, the more times you shoot at someone, you're going to get better and better and more accurate hits, hopefully. If you pay attention to what the enemy team is doing, the enemy ship is doing, and how they're reacting to you shooting. Here, we're definitely dead. That's Shimakaze, and he's loaded his torps. The only thing we can do here to possibly eke out a win is if we kill this guy. So that our Shimakaze can kind of run and sort of deal with the enemy team. We'll have a decent points lead based on our caps, I believe. And he'll take out to fires, which is pretty nice. So a pretty solid little carry game here. But I wanted to show you because I was shooting at a lot of the same targets this game. And you see how I kind of adjusted my aim depending on the distance away. Farther ranges, I was predicting more. Closer range, you just shoot for weak spots in general. Now you might be thinking, well, I'm just missing straight up at long ranges. How do you even get close if a ship doesn't even maneuver? If he's going in a straight line at 23 kilometers, how am I going to aim that? Well, that's what we're going to get into next. So the most important thing to have when trying to hit someone at long range is the dynamic crosshair. You'll get a feel for static crosshair, but I'm going to explain here why I think dynamic can help you out a lot. This is actually a modded version of dynamic crosshair called Smart Horizon. I'll get into my mods and what I use later. But for now, as you can see, this Donskoy is probably going around full speed. He's likely to turn out, is what I'm predicting. But the important thing here is he's essentially broadside. So here is where dynamic crosshair is really nice. So he's at 8.82 second shell travel time away from me. So all I need to do for a ship going 30 knots is simply put the ship at the 8.82 second mark on this crosshair. A Donskoy goes faster than 30 knots, so we'd have to aim a little bit more. But since I'm predicting he'll turn, he's probably going to slow down a little bit. So if I simply put it on 8.82 or 9, the 9th tick mark, I'll be pretty likely to hit him. And I think that's really powerful, and I think more people should be using this. You can get the feel down on static crosshair, but I think this clip here will show you just how powerful dynamic crosshair can be. And this is from my stream a little while ago, but when I was first using this this mod, but it went pretty well. Oh, he's broadside. Oh, he's asking for it, dude. See this? Put it on 14. 14 seconds. Put it on 14. And we're going to get a great hit in right here. You watch. Look at that. Bam! 32K! Dude, I'm telling you. This is how you play the video game. Now that's obviously quite powerful, that you can just line it up that easily. So that takes care of the horizontal aiming, I think, quite well. And we've learned what ships are capable of, and a little bit about predicting. I'm going to get more into that a little later. But the important thing to know is that Smart Horizon Dynamic Crosshair will really help you line up horizontally if a ship is 90 degrees from you, where, you know, he's not maneuvering. The tricky part, though, is getting the vertical lined up properly, and that is all about the minimap dot that we talked about earlier. And that's the frustrating one, where you get shots that go low or high compared to where you think you were aiming. So by making our minimap bigger, and I've figured out how to do this without just increasing all the UI elements, and I'll show that at the end along with the mods, but the important thing is to look at that minimap dot to figure out if you're vertically aligned. That dot, you just basically intersect that with the line on the minimap coming out of the enemy ship, and you know, assuming they don't maneuver, now you'll have to be predicting and all that stuff like we talked about earlier, but assuming they don't maneuver, you'll be vertically aligned properly. And that's why I have the minimap bigger, is so I can align things vertically like that. Now I do run Navigator, as you can see in all these clips, and that's just an easy way for me to tell if I need to aim higher or lower, and then the final fine-tuning of the vertical aim is all done by looking at the minimap. So aiming horizontally, all done with the main crosshair, but to get that vertical aim dialed in just right to get some of these nasty hits, you have to use the minimap and the dot, because that's the only thing that's accurate. That's the only thing that accounts for all of the auto aim that we saw earlier in Citizen's Clip. So bringing this all together, I tend to try and line things up just right, as if the ship were not going to maneuver. So I line things up in the horizontal, I check my Smart Horizon to make sure that's all good, taking into account ship speed and if it's more or less than 30 knots, and then aiming accordingly on the horizontal axis. Then I look at my navigator and my minimap dot and line things up in the vertical axis, and then I know I'm aligned perfectly for a ship that's not going to maneuver at whatever speed they're going. Then we take into account what the ship has been doing. If we've been shooting at it, we're starting to predict what they're going to do. So if we predict the turnout, then generally you're looking at that minimap dot, making sure you're going to be lined up perfectly when that ship turns out. And the important thing here is when a ship turns or maneuvers, it's going to maneuver drastically on the minimap compared to the minimap dot. The auto aim is constantly trying to correct your aim based on the ship moving in a straight line. So you're going to see some jumping of the minimap dot on the minimap as it tries to compensate for your aim. However, when a ship maneuvers, we don't want that. So your central crosshair oftentimes looks really wonky when you're trying to predict a ship to turn out or turn in, these kind of things, because you have to get outside of that auto aim sphere that's trying to line things up for a ship going in a straight line. So it's important to almost ignore the center of your screen crosshair and actually just look at that dot when ships are maneuvering, because that's all that matters when they're maneuvering, if you're trying to hit them. So keep that in mind when aiming at maneuvering ships. You can't trust your central crosshair. Now we should talk about weak points. Now that you've kind of got the whole aiming at a ship down, you need to learn to aim for weak spots. So on this Ranger, we know his citadel is farther towards the back where those smokestacks are. That's the more likely spot to citadel him. You're often going to overpen a Ranger, but maybe not at these ranges. So you're going to want to adjust your horizontal aim to hit these weak spots. So on a Yamato, that's going to be its cheek. And on other ships, they're going to have different weak points. So if you have 406mm shells, for example, and you're shooting at a tier 10 cruiser, a lot of them have 27, 25mm bow armor, but their broadside armor would be 30mm. So they'll bounce you if you hit their broadside armor, assuming it's well angled. So you're going to want to adjust your aim accordingly to try and hit the bow or the stern of the ship where you can overmatch. Now, other weak points, you're just going to have to learn from looking at view models and things like that and learning about overmatch and all these different other things. But as far as aiming, you can adjust to hit some of these weak spots. I mean, at closer range it's easier, but at longer range you can still do it using the Smart Horizon crosshair. It helps a lot with the horizontal, and then of course the mini-map with vertical. But another thing I should talk about as far as weak spots are is superstructures. If you know you're going to bounce off of a ship, like this Curfirst here, you can just shoot the superstructure with AP, at least in a battleship. Of course, cruisers and other destroyers and that will spam with HE, but sometimes you're just loaded with AP and you got to shoot at a ship that's pushing you. So AP into superstructures, especially when they're angled like this, you can actually get some pretty solid full pans if you're aiming for kind of that front corner of the superstructure. Your goal is to have the shell inside the superstructure for as long as possible. And as you can see, we do some pretty solid damage to a battleship that we can't really overmatch his nose because of the 60mm plating. So it's kind of important to know when to shoot at hull vulnerabilities and when to just kind of go for superstructure hits. Alright, let's talk now about blind firing, smoke firing, all that stuff, a little more advanced. I'm sure all of you have seen Flamu's smoke firing video, which is a great video on how to do this, essentially. Just a couple things I wanted to add a little bit here onto that video is how to do it when you don't have a spotter plane available, basically. It gets a lot harder, and a lot of people think, oh, I need a spotter plane if I want to even attempt this, but you actually don't. And that comes down to the minimap again. The minimap is so crucial, so using the little dot on the minimap to line things up properly on a ship is huge, and you're going to see that in the next couple clips. But the key thing to do is to envision where the ship is, right? So you see the shells coming out. Well, you know, obviously the Citadel is going to be below where the shells are coming from because the guns are obviously on top of the ship and the Citadel is down by the waterline. We know this. So I've overlaid a kind of version of the Smolensk here to give you an idea of what I'm trying to aim at. So you want to essentially get used to thinking about how high above the water guns on ships are. So for Minotaur, it's different than Smolensk. It's different than Worcester, like all these different smoke ships. DDs are a lot lower to the water, obviously. You aim slightly differently for them. Now, this is easier when you have the minimap. As you can see, I've lined up the dot pretty much exactly on the Smolensk here, and I'm aiming similar to where I'm envisioning the Smolensk to be, but we're in a Massachusetts, and Massachusetts has interesting dispersion sometimes, especially when you're not locked on. So you're not going to hit every single shot into smoke. That's just unrealistic. But with this, you can hit quite a few times, honestly. It gets somewhat reliable. The tricky part is now when the ship wasn't spotted in their last known position. That helps so much because you can line things up just right. And sometimes you can't. So as you can see right here, this Minotaur is ripple firing from smoke, so it actually makes it easier to see exactly where he is in the smoke, and do that whole imagining the ship from where the guns are, so trying to just picture that in your mind. It gets a lot easier when they're ripple firing just because you get more chances to kind of calibrate it in your mind. But here, the minimap isn't useful, so we're only going based off of the shots, and that's hard. That's not easy. So in general, you kind of want to aim, I don't know, it's hard to describe, but maybe like at least for my screen, I have a 27-inch 1440p monitor, and it's like a centimeter down, something like that on my screen compared to where they are, at least at this range. It takes a lot of practice, and it's kind of done by feel, but it's still doable. And using all these different tricks and ideas and things, you can somewhat calibrate and get a decent shot in at things in smoke. And I've done this to destroyers and different smaller ships too. It doesn't just have to be a Minotaur with a gigantic Citadel. Here, though, obviously, he gets spotted, and we can get a nice shot into him. But the point still stands that you can use... You don't have to use all of these things all at once to get a good shot off. It's just using these little tricks in combination as much as you can to find where the ship is in the smoke. So now we're going to talk about blind firing into smokes. So this Smolensk here, he's smoking up. I don't quite swing my turrets around for the first shot, but this is a pretty easy one because obviously he doesn't have time to move. But it's the next shot I really want to talk about. Despite me missing, there's a lot to learn from what I'm doing here. And so we hit him the first time, but
So what I'm going to do is practice what this guy's been doing, or see if we can implement somewhat, or if we're already implemented. Well, I'm not exactly sure. And let's see how it works out. So let's go to a small intermission while I'm loading up WOWS now, okay? Okay, we're going to go to the live game screen now. You'll be able to see for yourself. We're going to go in the Siegfried. So daily reward, got some credits. Let's go back to port. Say good day to the clan members. Okay, so we're in the Siegfried, so we're going to go into random battle on this. Now let's see where it takes us. So this is the Tier 9 German large cruiser Siegfried. Any questions? Just throw in chat, please. Got Tier 8 aircraft carrier. Only 2 destroyers on each side, which is not too bad. That's pretty rare. The average lately has normally been 4. Okay, so we're going to go see on this map. Let the team know.
Action stations. All stations, proceed to capture that area. Enemy force sighted on the horizon.
Got some planes. Neither one of these ships can reach us from where they are. Not sure where there's Nogato's going.
Enemy battleship detected. Enemy
Take a blind shot in that Bismarck, see if we can get lucky. There's a few of them right in a row there. Oh, we got a cyclone or storm coming.
enemy destroyer detected. Enemy cruiser sighted.
I turn back in. Smart move. Is he smart to move?
Enemy cruiser sighted. Enemy battleship sighted.
Yeah, let's look at the Schultz here, buddies. It's hard to hit him. Especially with, okay, managed to get another one on the Bismarck. We'll take that, thank you.
Concentrate fire on the designated target. Enemy cruiser detected.
Ah, frick. Lucky bugger. The lucky bugger.
Enemy aircraft carrier detected. Enemy battleship sighted. Enemy cruiser detected.
The Allspace.
battleship sighted. Enemy destroyer sighted.
Ricochets, eh? The ricochets. Okay, we're down 3, they're down 2. We got this allspice right around the corner here. Come on, buddy.
Enemy battleship sighted.
Oh, looks like he ate a torp, too. He's leaving Dodge.
All stations requesting fire.
Ricochets, eh? The ricochets. The ship is on fire. Problem solved, sir. The ship is on fire. Ship destroyed. Didn't want to lose my ship. Oh no. I lost my ships. Lost my ship. So they're down 4, we're down 7, so it's not looking good for us, but we do have 2 out of 3 caps. If we can hold that and not lose more people, we won't do too bad. The Allspice played that pretty well. Not much. What could I have done slightly different? Good question. Very good question. A lot of time left. There's 9.5 minutes left in the game. So lots of time left, folks. Very interesting. So they're leading 492 to 430. Mind you, we have the 2 out of the 3 caps. Luck can have. If we can take out a few ships here, this could change this dramatically. We'll have to see. 4, 6, 7. 7 down to their 4. That's a big difference. I guess the Pommern on my flank got nailed as well. If this Graf Zeppelin can take out this Schultz, that'll make a big friggin' difference. Oh, good job. Now we are ahead in points. It's a very close game still. Get some torps on that Veneto. Oh, Graf Zeppelin took out the Gneisenau. Nice. Oh, crap. We just lost 2 ships in a row. Jutland and Bismarck. Oh, Lenin now. Okay, we only got 2 ships left. There's no way we're pulling off a win here, unfortunately, and they're getting the B cap. They put a strong push in at B. Okay, Graf Zeppelin's the last soldier. Don't know how he can hold it against all those ships, though. Unless this guy's an amazing CV player, but he's only tier 8. Should probably just barrel into the B cap and see what he can take over the secondaries. That's about all he can do. Poor guy.
Battle ends in
Last
5
man
minutes.
standing. I took a good hit there. He's on the move now. Let's get a closer look. Okay, he's on the run away. Point-wise, they're ahead 632 to 561. They've got 2 out of the 3 caps. There's no way the Zeppelin's going to cap. He's got the Bismarck chasing him now. I don't know if he can get a torp or 2 on this Bismarck. Maybe. Doesn't seem like it. Bismarck angled away. CV's putting up a good game. Give the guy credit. Grass going down soon. He's toast. There we go. I don't think I got what I needed for naval battles either. This is social land. We went out early. Yeah, there we go. Took out 10 planes, though.
Forensics to me implies just a level of extremely detailed analysis. This work of, and I'm sure Evan can agree, of deciphering grainy, out of focus visuals that are almost always a small part of the entire story is very labor intensive, but it has the great benefit of adding
Okay, folks, let's go back to the video now.
overreach by those who are in power. Video and visual reconstruction.
Let's see if we can pull up some more pointers, or maybe there'll be something that can help you with your game, whoever's watching.
And this type of work, I think, can be profoundly transparent because it allows readers to understand precisely what we know and what we don't know.
But more than likely,
Okay, any
this
questions,
one
just
is
post in
going to
chat,
reverse.
please.
We see that last little hit there behind where he slowed down at, so we think he's reversing, right? We know he can't strafe at all, just based on what ships are capable of doing in this game, right? So you see I shoot a little bit behind him, and it's possible I needed to shoot a little farther behind him because he had enough time to possibly accelerate. But what I'm doing is I'm trying to predict where that Smolensk is going to be in that smoke because I know he's low, right? And I want to get him out because, well, getting a Smolensk off the board obviously helps me win a game. And I think that these blind fire shots maybe not connecting terribly often when you have essentially no information other than a last known position, but people tend to stay in their smokes while they're up. So like how smokes are torpedo magnets, because generally there's going to be ship in there, we can kind of shoot into the smoke and hope to hit them. Now obviously that didn't happen this time, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't take shots into smokes, even if they're blind, because there are times, I don't have a clip unfortunately, but there are times where I have hit ships and killed ships like this where they haven't been spotted for a long time, just based off the last known location and a smoke screen. So now on to pretty much the most advanced thing you can do in this game, which is shooting when you have essentially zero information. This Duke of York is somewhat spotted right now simply because he's in a cyclone, but we are about to have no information on him. So shooting at things with a last known position marker is not easy. You have to take into account what the ship's capable of, like we talked about earlier, all its speed and maneuverability, and then you're also predicting what he's going to do. So I'm going to predict that this Duke of York is going to continue in a straight line, because he probably isn't going to maneuver too much yet since he just got unlit maybe 10 seconds ago. He's probably deciding, should I go back and help support the ships in the north, defend the base, or should I push into my base? And I'm assuming he's going to stay in a straight line. So it's not something you can do all the time, but it's definitely possible to hit shots like this. And as you can see, I don't really have anything else to shoot at. I'm about to turn north through the gap because my team needs help up there and our base isn't in too much trouble. So I think that hitting shots like this are rare, but doable. So using the minimap is super important. And it's not just important for lining up the vertical aim, it's so that you can do stuff like this and be effective in a cyclone at longer ranges still. So this is a Smolensk at 14 kilometers-ish, and we're going to go say hello to him. As you can see, he's lit right now, so we know we're getting an updated version of his position. So we just simply need to line up the vertical, which isn't too hard because we've been doing this forever with our minimap now. We just don't have the line coming out of his ship. The hard part is the horizontal. And right now, you don't have your main central aiming system to go by. And this just comes down to practice and getting used to how fast ships are and how far you need to lead on a minimap ahead of a ship. And that's not easy, but it comes with practice. And it's certainly a useful skill to have because, well, even a Smolensk can't get away from this all the time. Now, this last clip is insane. This is probably one of the craziest shots I've hit in my entire time playing this game. Because essentially I have zero information. Basically. I have some information, but essentially none. First, I'd like to point out that there is almost a minute left on this game. And, well, we're at 966 points, and there's no way the enemy team catches us. So at this point, just hiding and living, we win the game. So, you can have all the aim talent you want. If you make dumb plays like this, you still might throw games. Now, even if I die, I probably don't throw the game, but still, it's like probably the dumbest thing I could possibly do is push into a Summers, because we know the Summers is ahead of us in A, because he's capping, and there's an Ostergotland on my flank. So, right now, I'm kind of in a really, really bad spot, because I'm getting torped by the Summers, which, of course, is not a good thing for a low health battleship, but we managed to dodge it. And there he is in the middle of the cap. So, we go dark. Now, I know that the only way I'm going to get spotted now is if I shoot, which I'm not going to do because I've realized the crappy situation I'm in, or if I get spotted by the Ostergotland. So that you see me pre-aiming this corner. Now, why am I aiming here? I'm aiming here because I'm very sure this is where the Ostergotland's coming from. And we know from his torpedoes, we know he's there. So this shot is based off of where I think this player is going to be. And this is predicting maybe a minute later from the Ostergotland's last known location. More like 30 seconds probably, actually. And from where his torps came from and all these different things, I'm predicting, since I'm still spotted, that he's going to be right beside this island spotting for the Summers in smokes. The Summers can shoot me if I don't take all his torpedoes, which, spoilers, I do end up taking all his torpedoes and dying. But I'm basing this entirely off of detection, where I can possibly be detected from, and where his torps came from. That is what this shot is based off of. So, it's not easy to do this, and this probably shouldn't have worked, but, well, we actually get him. And it was a dumb play. I was throwing the game here by doing it, but I actually hit this guy with essentially zero information. And that's just the power of being able to predict what your enemy is going to do, using your detection indicator to say, well, he obviously can't be behind these islands or in different areas, so you're narrowing down where the ship can be. And then I'm obviously, again, using the minimap to see exactly my vertical alignment to hit this ship. So, pretty crazy, and probably one of the craziest shots I've ever hit in this game. So that's it. Bit of a long video. Thanks everybody for sticking around this long and paying attention to me. At this point, I hope I've earned a sub and a like and all that good stuff. I really appreciate you
Okay, so we're going to go in one more battle in the Siegfried, and let's see how we do here. Going in. Let's check them out. Did we learn anything from the video? Post in chat.
So I know you've heard a lot of Republican governors are saying that this is government overreach. Some of the Republican governors are saying this. They largely
Tier 9 pretty much top to bottom. We've got 3 Tier 8s on each side and a couple Tier 10 cruisers. How does this Harlem? 54, eh? Cool. Yeah, we're going to go A here.
Action stations.
3 destroyers on each side. We got a Hayati, Lightning Z23. We got a Kleber, Benson, Oland. So pretty well balanced there.
Acknowledged.
president's new plan, any concern that people
Okay, still early in the game. See where the enemy pops up. Well, I'm gonna have to call in the grammar cups. We must one in A. After you smoke to open water gunfight. Okay. Whatever he says.
Roger.
plane or train, but you have this experience. But I've been on planes where you're sitting there, the masks, you have to understand. So in that reality,
There's a Henry.
Enemy cruiser.
He's turned away. Turned away really fast. Smart move.
The ship is on fire. Problem solved, sir.
Oh, those should have hit the Iowa. Why didn't they hit?
Capture that area.
I don't know if we can get lucky here. Oops, torpedoes. Z
Torpedoes, dead
torpedoes.
ahead. Torpedoes to starboard.
Come on, guns. Let's get around. Oh, moly. Slowed right down.
Enemy cruiser detected. Well done, Commander. Enemy destroyer foundered. Our team has taken the lead. Much obliged.
Henry's gonna blow by those shells. It should hit. Ah, come on, they fell short like that? How'd that happen? Give me a break, man. Crap.
Concentrate fire on the enemy warship.
Okay, we got the A cap. Gonna head over to B. Yeah, guy turned in pretty quick. Good dodge on his part. Benson, nail some friggin' torps on him. He's toast. The buffalo is toast, monsieur.
Requesting support.
Not too bad, not too bad. Okay, they're down 4 to our 1, so we're looking good here right now. Couple more ahead. Overpen. How do you get a friggin' overpen on this guy? See if we can take him out. Come on, baby. Let's hit. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. Let's hit. Good, we got him.
Enemy battleship foundered.
Thank you very much. You have to shore up the guys over at B. We're gonna need some help there.
Battleship sighted.
You guys giving the Benson a friggin'.
Our victory is in sight. Enemy cruiser detected.
Okay, we got the game. I'm not sure if I got what I needed for naval battles. The damage isn't all that great, so I don't think I got it. No, I didn't. With modifiers, yeah, but not without. Just didn't happen. It just didn't happen. Okay, let's check out our containers. See what we got here. Well, we always take resources anyways. And that's what we're going to take here. Cool, and free XP, we'll take that. Thank you very much. Okay, we're going to take a smoke break and then come right back for another game, folks, okay? Questions, throw in chat, please. Better check out to see if my naval battles are still enabled. Let's see where we're sitting here with that. Yeah, it's enabled. 7068, okay. How am I sitting? I haven't, I got 10 out of 12. Okay. Let's go into another battle. Let's see what flags we can add to this. Go into battle. Let's see what happens, folks. Charging in. Any questions? Just throw in chat, please. Remember, Bob's your uncle. And if Bob's not your uncle, get a name change. Let's get everybody on the same page.
Real quick on another topic, because I'm traveling, working on a project on voting. Georgia, Texas, and Arizona. Every Democrat I talk to, they're saying that they need federal to act, you to help find a way to get a federal voting rights bill passed. And they're even working on it this summer. And where are you?
Action stations.
Okay, we're going A, folks. We're taking the A train. 3 DDs each side. We got a Benham. He can kick out a lot of friggin' torps. Ostergotland or Gutland's not a great capper. Good ship though.
All stations, concentrate fire on the target. Enemy battleship sighted. Concentrate fire on the enemy warship. Communications requesting fire on the designated target. All forces, capture that area. Enemy battleship sighted. Enemy cruiser sighted. The ship is on fire. Torpedoes to starboard. Hull breach. We're taking on water quickly. Problem solved, sir. The ship is on fire. Enemy battleship sighted.
Couldn't take them out. I took a gamble. I didn't know they had that many. I didn't know the Georgia was there. Knew a Buffalo was there and possibly a DD, but I didn't know the Georgia was there. I don't know why the friggin' 2 Iowas there. Nobody can get a friggin' shot on them. Neither one of those friggin' Iowas got a shot on them. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Only one torped. Shoot, should have been more. Oh well. We're down 2, they're down 1. Okay, I took a risky move. You're either a friggin' hero or a bum. So, more like a bum on that move, but what are you gonna do? It was worth a shot. Why was gonna be toast? A Buffalo got hit pretty hard. If that other Iowa can heal up, we're okay. Oh, he's toast. He was flooding at the same time. Okay, we're down 3, they're down 3. We got 1 cap, and there's 2 uncontested caps. Ooh. We just lost 2 more, so we're down 5 to their 3. Not good, folks. Friggin' Iowa's gonna be toast soon, too. Whoa. No, we're not gonna get it this battle. Oh, well. I took a risk, and I shouldn't have. Oh, well, what are you gonna do? Mind you, if those Iowas had been all over that friggin' Georgia when I was there, we would have taken the Georgia out. I don't understand. Huh. What can you do? Questions, throw in chat. Let's see how it goes. We lost another ship, so it's not good. We're down 7 to their 3 already. Holy moly.
team has taken the lead.
One ship left. Oh no. But look at the score. It's only 516 to 173. We can't possibly win this one, though. They're getting the third cap, so it's going to be game over this way. Point was. A pitiful game for me, I know that. Oh, nose. Yeah, well, look at this guy. Auger did even worse. Holy crap. Going back in, folks.
Yeah, and that's my final question to you, because you know that one of your fellow progressives in the House are saying explicitly they will not vote for the infrastructure bill that's already passed the Senate.
I agree with them. Donna, let me be clear. I think they're doing exactly the right thing because promises have been made, agreements have been made. We want a physical infrastructure bill. We have to rebuild our roads and bridges. That's important. Human infrastructure is more important. We cannot continue to have elderly people unable to hear, no teeth in their mouth, children who can't get decent childcare. We cannot afford not to deal with climate. We have got to do that in this unprecedented moment in American history. Two bills go together. At the end of the day, I believe we're going to pass the vote.
Senate Budget Chairman Bernie Sanders, thank you so much for joining us.
Well, it's an interesting lineup, this game. Let's look at the map. Oh, we're going to go 8.
Action stations. Support the allied target.
Oh, smart movie turned in.
Torpedoes, astern! Enemy cruiser sighted.
Come on.
Reporting a target position. Bullseye! Enemy battleship sighted. Enemy battleship sighted. Enemy cruiser sighted. Enemy cruiser foundered. Attention. Reporting the target position. Enemy destroyer detected. Enemy cruiser detected. The ship is on fire. Problem solved, sir. The ship is on fire. All stations, reporting the position of a strategic target.
I spoke to a woman, White House National Security Advisor the other day,
Enemy destroyer detected. Problem solved, sir.
What the frick's going on with my shells? What is going on? What is going on? Come on, guys. Come on, baby. Let's go.
Enemy battleship.
Come on. Friggin' taking so long to hit. Whoa, this guy hit hard.
Requesting support.
Friggin' 9 pens.
Intelligence data. I need intelligence data. Enemy destroyer sighted.
Come on. Freaking shells are doing weird things, man. Very strange. Okay, we're down 3, they're down 5. It's not bad. Not the bad.
You don't want to miss it.
See if we can get a shot in this curve first. He's coming out.
Reporting the position of a strategic target. Enemy cruiser sighted. Spotter airborne. Our team has taken the lead.
Thanks for joining us today. Again tonight, top U.S. generals on what went wrong in Afghanistan, America's longest war era.
Spotter returning to ship. Our victory is in sight.
I'm still not gonna get my friggin' naval battle star, guys. Can't get enough damage this game.
Good show.
Okay, only 2 ships left. Whoops.
Do not let the enemy take the area.
Game over.
It's also scuff resistant.
Introducing Bear Dynasty, the best of Bear, exclusively at Home Depot.
Welcome to Allstate. When you can pay a little less. Now get moved over all the way with Allstate.
Did I get it or not? It's going to be close. Might have just squeaked her in. Might be 3 shy, can you believe it? Let's check out naval battles and see. Yeah. I got 1072. I needed it 1075. Just 3 shy. What are you going to do? Okay, going to take a smoke break, folks. Then I'll be back. Okay, we're going back in the Tier 9 Siegfried. Gotta play a little smarter this time, folks. Okay, so we've got even tier 7, 7, 8, and 9. Just, yeah, a couple tier 7s.
General quarters. Let's give them a hard time. Roger. Enemy battleship sighted. Enemy cruiser detected. Enemy destroyer detected. Get back!
Oh, we got 4 DDs.
Enemy battleship sighted. Enemy destroyer detected. Enemy battleship sighted.
Ah, the friggin' shells.
The ship is on fire! Problem solved, sir. Torpedoes to starboard. Enemy cruiser detected. Enemy destroyer sighted. Torpedoes to starboard. Torpedoes to starboard.
What happened to this flank?
Enemy battleship sighted. Enemy destroyer detected. The ship is on fire. Problem solved, sir. The ship is on fire. Enemy battleship detected.
This whole friggin' flank collapsed. Why there's so many bad games in a row? Holy crap. Holy crap. The whole friggin' flank collapsed. What's our DD doing? Anything? Not doing anything from there. No help whatsoever. Well, Shireners is 12 kilometers away. Like, what's he open to hit? What's this guy doing? I don't know. We're down 5, they're down 4, so it's not looking good. We got 2 caps, they got 2 caps. They're ahead 5, 79 to 347 now. I forget the range on those friggin' torps. Maybe I got luckier at the other set. Well, I got the distance. No, he's not. He's gonna miss everything. I don't know what he's trying to hit. Those torps gonna hit the Alaska? No, he dodged them all. The Scharnhorst is friggin' YOLOing in. Friggin' Udachi, I don't know what he's hoping to hit. Hopefully he'll hit something this time. Friggin' Gneisenau's out. We lost a lot of ships.
The enemy team
We
has
got
taken
5
the lead.
left. They've only lost 4. Nice if these torps would hit something. Nice. Okay, we got a chance. Come on, torps, take something else out. Nagato dodged those torps. Holy moly. Well, it looks like we're losing the A cap. One of our DDs just went down.
The enemy team has taken
Or
the
no,
lead.
that Wu Jing? Oh, it's a battleship. Holy crap. Oh, now we lost another one. We only got 2 friggin' ships left. 2 against 6. Not a fair battle, folks. Not looking good for our team. Come on, take that Z46 out. Before he takes our guy out. He took our guy out. Oh, it's a ZF6, sorry. Okay, we got 1 DD left. They've got 2 DDs left. 1 cruiser and 2 battleships. I'm having a tough time getting a naval star this morning, I'll tell you. No matter what I do. This side, my whole flank friggin' disappeared on me. What can you do?
The enemy is about to win.
It's going to be game over soon. Not much you can do. Okay, I'm gonna. Holy moly. We're losing the A cap now. We're gonna have no cap soon. But game over in about 10 seconds, anyways. 985. 993, a couple seconds more. Game over. There you go. Definitely not a win for us. Haven't got a win this morning, period. Every game's just been yuck. Yuck. Oh, what are you going to do? Sometimes happens, folks. Sometimes happens. Not much you can do. Okay, thanks for watching. Everybody be safe. We'll try and get on later, so be safe, be good. Talk to you soon, folks. And just remember, this COVID-19, it's real. It's not a hoax. So just take care of your health and be very careful, okay? If you're not sure about vaccination, see your doctor, and he'll help explain that factor, and get a second and third opinion if need be. It's an important step, but make sure you're well educated on the step you need to take for yourself. Okay, talk to you guys soon. Take care.